Hey everyone, my next guest is from Agra in India. The town of Agra is the home of the famous Taj Mahal. It was constructed over 22 years by 22,000 workers beginning in 1632. He's an MVP in Biz Apps and a leader in our D365 world. He now works as a principal technical architect at Valrada. But prior to that, he worked at PwC, Infosys, DXC, and Sable. Rachit Garg has found success in the consulting world by not only excelling in technical areas, but by following a mantra of know thy customer. Knowing who your client is, their needs, desires, and concerns helps him to strategize what he says, how he says it, and when. Rachit has found that anyone can speak, but only a few people understand how to influence. Join me as we explore Rachit's wisdom on how to excel in the world of consulting. Excellent. Good morning, Rachit. How are you?
Hey Chris, I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you doing, mate?
It's 8 a.m. here in Brisbane, and I think you're 9 a.m. in Melbourne, right?
Actually, it's 8 a.m. because we had the daylight saving going away,
Done.
yeah, on the
Yep.
weekend. So yeah, I'm in the same time zone as you know.
So, question, we're both from India. If I offered you sunshine and beach life in Brisbane, would you run away from Melbourne or would you say the quality of life's better there?
I am actually addicted to Melbourne coffee as well and the culture. So I would definitely love to visit Brisbane to spend some good time with you. But then yeah, I have been to Brisbane before. It's a beautiful place. A lot of options to explore, especially the beaches and and all the places which are like 1 hour away from Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, all the theme parks. My daughter really loved that. But yeah, I think having
Yes.
lived in Melbourne for almost 10 years now, I consider it my second home. Yeah,
Not a problem. I agree with you. Melbourne has got some fantastic places to visit and there is something to do 24 hours a day. I agree.
true. How are you doing? How is life in Brisbane nowadays?
Okay, so I live north of the city. Um, and I'm getting a little bit of feedback there, by the way, from your speaker. I live north of the city, 1.5 hours at a place called Sunshine Coast. If you look it up, it's at Kings Beach, and it's normally really nice. And yesterday it was raining, and I actually went for a swim in the rain, so it's great, even when it's raining. Um, okay, so let's kick into it. I just saw a video that you released for Dynamic Divas. I think it's the first one with Rachel Prophet on it.
Yeah, that's an initiative we are taking to bring more women from the world of Dynamics 365 Power Platform, Microsoft technologies, and talk about their experiences and how they can inspire the new talent. So, yeah, thanks for watching that and giving your feedback, Chris. But yeah, Rachel was really helpful to come to the show, share her experiences, and she being in Microsoft and in the finance and operations world, she's doing some really great work. So it was good to have her, and where she shared her experiences. And I'm also working with more powerful leaders in this space. So stay tuned for more videos. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is because the people who are watching us are getting this feeling that you can start a channel on anything and actually take a chance on yourself and then go out and create the content and then see how it goes. Is that how you felt, or were you actually uh, paralyzed by analysis for months before you started?
No, so basically, I have been trying myself on YouTube and video channels. So I have some technical videos and playlists which I created in the past. But I also felt that people want to listen more about how the leaders have grown into that role, how the what type of challenges are faced. And this was in back of my mind like for quite some time, that I want to do a playlist on women in technology. And
Yes.
yeah, this year when I visited MVP Global Summit, I met a lot of people who are doing their videos and podcasts and running their own shows, and they helped me to understand how I can do it better, because honestly YouTube was not one of my key areas of interest last year. So I was more into blogging and giving sessions on the fly, like going to user groups and giving sessions. But this year I'm focusing to build some content on YouTube, and the tips I got from the other MVPs at MVP Global Summit is really helping me to drive it. But yeah, this topic was in back of my mind for a long time. Yeah.
Yep. I get it, and thank you very much for kicking that off. Let's go back to your younger days. Obviously, you were born, you were telling me, near the Taj, and in Agra, or near Agra, and then you've now arrived in Melbourne. You've been there for 10 years. What started your journey in technology? How did you become interested? What was the challenge for you?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to share that experience. It's a long, there is a lot to cover in that question, but it takes me long back to my hometown city of Taj Mahal, Agra, which is in northern part of India in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So I was born and brought up there. Like my family is mostly everyone is engineer. So my father was an electrical engineer, and my brother is an electronics engineer. My sister is also into, she was a doctor. So I was like more uh, tuned in a way that yes, I'll be doing some sort of engineering when I grow up. And when I finished my schooling, IT was at its boom, and I
Mm.
just followed the path of my friends who took IT in their course. So yeah, I got into computer engineering, finished it, and then I think that was the time when it was really picking up. I started my first job as a X++ developer, and X++ was not really a well-known programming language at that time. So I was like the odd man out when I was hanging out with my friends, because most of them were a Java or a .NET developer at that time. But I actually realized the potential in this product during that time itself, because I was working for a company called Euro Infosystem in India, and it was partnered directly with DamGuard. So even before Microsoft acquired this product, this company was working as a reseller of the product with DamGuard, and they had customers in
Wow.
Europe, US, UK. So I landed in a company which was a mid-size, like there were around 40 people in that company, but everyone, if we talk about now, is like uh, is a great leader in this space. So I was lucky to be surrounded by people who were very supportive and who were always encouraging me to learn and try new things, and help me to upskill myself, give me opportunities, and they took risks with me, which actually paid off pretty well. And I feel that is one of the key leadership lessons I have learned, even at that stage, was
Mm.
that if you believe in someone, give them opportunities. Don't try to hold back yourself with fear of failure. So the leaders and the mentors I had, and I would say, not only at that time till now, like in last 19 years of my career, every company I have worked, I was surrounded by people who motivated me, and they put their confidence in me, and they gave me opportunities, and that helped me to basically uh, excel in whatever I do. So starting from development, and now I have also experienced Power Platform. I have also implemented Salesforce in at one point in time, but it all helped me to understand how dynamics fit with other technologies. So coming back to a question, Chris, it was more about my journey. So the thing which kept me motivated was, first is the impact this product is making, not only for the organizations. We always talk about organizations, they can optimize their process, increase the efficiency of end users, but I also feel it created an ecosystem where people can build their life career out of it, right? So
Mm, mm,
there are people who are running their own product teams, their own companies. So it created opportunities of employment, it created opportunities of upskilling, and there is a big ecosystem of Microsoft partners who work in this space. There are people who it helps them to earn their bread and butter, and it is so big, it is so wide, it impacts every industry, it impacts every type of work. So when I talk to people, for example, they say, oh, I'm a database guy, or I'm a front end guy. But uh, when I see at ERP professionals, we are doing a bit of everything. We are designing user journeys, we have UI UX in mind. At the same time, we are creating a robust data model, we are creating a business logic, we are creating reports out of it, we are keeping security in mind. So there is a lot of things to do, there are a lot of things to learn and excel in life. So this product, even today I learned something new in this product every day, right? So, and then the second thing was the investments from Microsoft in this stack. The product
Mm,
kept evolving with technology. Even when I started my career, it was best of the breed software, and today it is best of the breed software if you talk about all the SaaS platform capabilities it offers. So the things which kept me going were, first, the opportunities in this space. It's not limited, it's unlimited. You can explore, you can create your niche, and you can build your space in the market. Second is the impact it has. And third is the constant innovation which is happening from Microsoft in this platform. So these things kept me up in my passion for this. And also, it's very creative platform, I think, because now as the platform has evolved, there are different ways to solve one problem. So you always can be more creative with your solutions when you talk to customers.
totally.
Fast forward from Agra to Melbourne. Yeah, I moved here in year 2013, and I was working for a company called Sable 37. Again, similar type of company, which I where I started my career. When I joined, it was a size of like 40 people, very smart people working towards common objective and helping each other, taking risks with each other, betting on each other. So yeah, I think I also got to work on the product side. So work for companies like To Increase, PwC, where we were part of advanced warehousing product, maybe education industry. So as I mentioned earlier, it touches different industries, and you get to learn and see how different industries can operate with the same product. So yeah, it
Yeah,
always kept me, curious about what's happening. How can I learn more? So yeah, I
true,
think
true.
that answers. Yeah, yeah.
It's become its own ecosystem, right? So what I'm noticing is that people originally were X++ or exclusively D365, and now as it spreads its links into Power Platform, for example, or into Windows, CE, you start to realize the impact of a person coming in with slightly different skills, but still being able to connect and make this application work in their ecosystem. So yeah, I'm noticing a lot of cross-pollination from other techs and talents. So what was the aspect of your own personality that drew you into working for a consulting firm? So for our viewers, obviously there's two broad streams. You can go into end user or consulting firm. I'm typically in end users. I love that deep dive and being part of that inside team that has a long run. Whereas consulting firms come in, they do the project, and typically they hand over to BAU and they move on. What made you go down consulting?
Great question, Chris. I think working for an end user or working for a partner, they both have their own pros and cons, and it's not really good or bad or right or wrong. It's more about where you feel more comfortable and where you feel you can add more value to the business, right? So if you work for an end user, there you become an expert in that domain, you understand their application, and you can make the impact to the business quite fast because you are sitting with them, you have a skill, you have ideas, you can roll them out quickly. So definitely there are a lot of benefits of working with end user. And especially you, one thing which I feel like, because I work with a lot of my clients and a lot of people who have been into end user industry, and one common thing which I was told by one of my mentor who works for an end user is like, you get to live with your decisions if you are in the end user. Like, you make a decision, you make a design, you go for it, and you roll it out. It gives you a kicking feeling that when your idea is actually running in the system and everyone is using it. But then you have to live with it, and it helps you to basically learn from those. Let's say if you have some retrospection done on it, and maybe the next time you do it better. But it is a very challenging position to be into, and it is also equally rewarding. So uh, if that is that your area of interest, definitely end users is a place to be. And I have no problem working for end user. It's just that I have always been in partner space, and what I feel the benefit with working on partner space is I get to work in different industries. So for example, if you got a project in construction in industry, you go there, work for a year, you understand how that domain works, you implement it. Then maybe you go in education industry, then you go in a supply chain company. So you get to see different industries, you get to meet different people, and then you can actually cross pollinate the ideas. And you might have seen something in one industry which works better for a particular use case. Maybe the other industry is also doing something similar, but they have not even thought in that way because their domain is totally different. So you get to tell customers how other companies are doing in different domains, how we think you can benefit with it. So and then being in a partner side also, what helped me is it, like it was when I was in India, I got to travel a lot, and I was bachelor at that time, and I loved it. So when I was in India, I like traveled to US, UK, Dubai, Malaysia. I was like feeling good about it, that you can spend few months of a year exploring a new culture, meeting new
Yes.
people, working again with the same product. And again, this ties back to your question, what kept me moving is that this is a globally used product, adopted by a lot of different industries, different customers. So the opportunities were endless. So another thing with with partner was that I used to travel, which I used to love at that time. I probably will not travel that much now with a 9-year-old in house. But yeah, I think it's all about what you do. You learn from other people. You get to work with a lot of different skilled people in a partner world, because we have specialized teams for cloud engineering, reporting, integration, business, uh, business logic, or database modeling, reporting, security. So you also have access to a wide array of experts from different domains, which do exist in end user as well. But I think the amount is not that much, because let's say a company as an end user, they will have an IT team for who focuses on security, but that will be a group of people. But if you are in a vendor side, that group is actually quite big, and you get to reach out and network with a lot of people.
Yeah, I
So
see what you're saying. I mean, the aspect that you've painted is one that's often forgotten about in end user land, that you've got pre-built teams. They all know how to work with each other. They know the gameplay, so they're able to get in and do things very effectively and efficiently. I've noticed that as an end user, and I'm building my own teams. One of my last projects had 35 people on it. And to get 35 people who have never worked with each other, I don't know their skills, to get them to get it all together to get this project through is a challenge to begin with. And so you're often, a lot of the time, you're actually doing this normalization at the start of the project to get everyone to form that team. So I see what you're saying about consulting. Can I ask you about a problem that you had, say your own personality? How do you deal with this tension when you come in? You're a consulting firm, you walk into a client, they have people that don't know what they're doing, but they're your bosses. I'm talking about D365. They don't know what they're doing with D365, and they're in effect guiding you, and you have to work out how to get the plan through, even though they disagree with the time or the cost, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that's a normal day in life of a consultant who works for a partner firm, because one thing is, like, yes, as you said, right, you might deal with people who are using Dynamics for the first time, but they do have a great industry experience, and they might have experience with other technologies. Like I deal with people who have, let's say, a lot of experience in SAP or Oracle, but they're doing with Dynamics for the first time, and their thought process is, why is this so simple, or why is this so complex in Dynamics, because it might be totally other way around in other products. So yes, I deal with a lot of these situations. I think one of the key areas which make such type of situations easy are, first is um, a clear communication of what we are trying to achieve,
Mm,
and what is the end goal we are working towards, and how your vision, my skills can work together to reach that goal. And in that case, professional attributes kick in, right? It's very easy to uh, feel frustrated or lose your temper, or talk to your internal manager and say, hey, I want to change my project, this guy doesn't understand me. So I think this is where professional attribute kicks in. You have to
Okay,
use your
but you got to
resilience.
tell me,
Yeah.
have you ever said, I want to get out of this project? Then the project you jump into, that person's doing the same, and you both jump from bad to worse.
No, that hasn't happened. Like I had one stressful situation in my life. See, and that's the thing, right? You won't get good clients all the time. You have to deal with different personalities. It's more about how you deal with people. It's not a product problem. It's a people problem, in my view, right? So you will find tough situations in the projects where the situations are tough not because of a technical problem or a product problem, but because of the people problem. And
Yes.
that plays an important role in any ERP project, because this is a product which requires people from multiple skills, multiple business units of your organization to come together and drive it. And everyone need to understand what is happening, because there can be conflicts even for an end user. There can be conflicts at a partner sites, and that's why how you manage the conflicts. And not everything needs to be escalated. Yes, every project has this escalation matrix where you go to the next level, you go to the next level. But how do you handle this situation? And I take this as an opportunity to improve my professional skills. Whenever I am in this situation, I try to see what best I can do. We try to have a discussion, dialogue, take a step back. If you think things might are not going in the right direction, take a step back, go back to the whiteboard. If there are any design flaws you see, or if there are any uh, you know if you talk about time and cost impact happening on the project, bring project managers into the picture, bring the stakeholders, that what value we can get out of your money in, let's say, in this sprint, if the sprint is, for example, not going well as planned. So how, what
Mhm.
can we do proactively to identify these issues and mitigate these issues? Use your professional attributes. I think that's very important. Try to connect with the people, right? Because we are here to solve a problem. We are not, I'm not here to write a code, right? Like, why I am writing this code, why is, who is it going to help? And in the
Mhm.
ERP project, everything is tied back to a business value. And that is a good thing with ERP projects, because you can uh, work out what is the impact on the business. Everything we do, doesn't matter it's technical or functional, is tied back to a business process, it's tied back to a business value, it is tied back to a user role. So that is also important in terms of ERP. So I think what keeps me going is resilience, perseverance, be patient, use your and that's where you use your skill, right? So if we are trying to work out on a situation which is in a bad shape, you bring your skill and experience and confidence and tell them, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, this is what we should do, and make your recommendations. Give them proper information to make decisions. I think once people start trusting you, then even though they don't have dynamics background, they will be able to make good decisions on your behalf, because then they know there is someone who is going to stick on their words, who is, there is someone who, as a product SME, whom they can rely on. And that's where the relationship between a partner and a customer also brings value. If
Yes.
it's more of a transactional relationship, it won't survive long term. The relationship should be more where a partner understands the customer's vision and helps them deliver it in the right way, and with a transparent process, where the people who are working on the project know what they are doing, they have the right skill. And of course, you also have to create a place where people can learn from each other. Like, it's not that vendor will come and do the job and go away. You have to start uplifting the customer's team, uplifting the end user. So there is a lot of uh, effort which, as a partner, we put in upskilling the people, because ultimately the product is going to be used by them. So I think
True.
this is these are the few situations, and these are some things which I keep in mind when dealing with tough situations. Yeah.
I don't wish to talk about your current company, but in general, I've noticed that within any team, there is the A players and the B players. I've had to let go of B players to motivate the A players because when they're around people who are not performing, quite often the whole tone in the team drops. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that because, for example, Cisco trims off the bottom 10%. Have you had to do that yourself? And if so, where do you sit? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Chris. It happens in team. Like every team is made of people, and it's more of a people issue again rather than a company issue. I won't blame companies because companies are big. Like if you talk about global SIs, there are different business units, different product units, different projects going, and each project team is trying to create their own culture. Sometimes the culture shifts from one team to another team within the same company. Like I have talked to people who work for a company who are very happy with their work life balance, who are very happy with their managers, with their clients, but if you talk to another team in the same company, they may be having totally different views about it.
I
So
see.
what I have, how I deal is, again, it's more of a people issue where it's very important to seek one-on-one feedback from the people who are actually doing the job. And it's not just taking the feedback, how how do you take that feedback and how do you work upon it and have a constant dialogue. So it's always a constant process. So I generally talk to my team members one on one. I try to spend time with them to understand what are the pain points and how I can alleviate that. And another thing is also more about uh, giving feedback. So taking a feedback from someone and giving a positive feedback to someone so that they can also improve in certain areas, and they also don't feel bad about it, because giving a positive feedback is really a difficult thing to do, because again we are dealing with peoples and emotions, and you don't know what type of effort or emotions the other person has put in delivering a work, what type of personal struggles they might be going through, and which might have impacted their quality of work. So how do you drive such conversation is a very tricky thing, and it really depends on the situation. There is no golden rule book for doing this. So one thing I try to do is appreciate the people even for small things.
Mhm.
Don't wait for a big thing to happen and then you appreciate for small things. When they take over a challenging task, when they deliver something on time, appreciate that, because delivering something on time is also a great measure of your professional attribute. Not only
Sure.
like delivering quickly, but delivering on time is also great, right? So celebrate small achievements, give them regular feedback, take regular feedback, and work with them towards a plan. But then, yeah, so this is how you like I deal basically with people within my team and whom I have access to. But then there can be situations where things are out of your control and you are not comfortable. So you may be dealing with a stakeholder who is not gelling well with you. That's where you need to set up, like, again, have a one-on-one conversation. These type of things are not to be taken out or vented out in a forum where there are 15 more people sitting next in that call. Have a one-on-one conversation with your reporting manager or with your partner or director of the company. Try to explain them the situation and come up with a working plan. So, and yeah, it doesn't get resolved in one go, but at least you know where to go. So identify your key people who can help you resolve issues in case the things are not going in the right direction. So that's where your professional networking helps, right? So
Yeah.
if you go to a person where things are always bad, he will say, hey mate, what's happening? But if they understand what you are doing, let's say on a fortnightly basis, on a monthly basis, have a catch up call with your directors and partners. If you're working in a big four or if you're working in a small firm, have a catch up call with your reporting manager and to the manager above you and the manager above them. Try to have a constant dialogue with the leadership team to make them understand what you are doing, what impact you are creating in that company for your clients. And even if things are going good, tell them about it, because if they only hear when things have messed up, it doesn't reflects good on you, right? So that's my way of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you make me think about how you're probably an awesome dad because that is one of the processes of raising children, right? To amplify the things that you want and not necessarily become critical of everything because the kids then go towards the reward. Also, I love your suggestion to build that better relationship before something happens. So you're out there communicating, connecting often rather than making that phone call for the first time to that person when something's gone wrong.
Right.
I'd love to know your uh, problem solving process. So, for example, if you gave me a problem, I play this game called Slice the Sausage. And what it is you imagine the problem as a sausage, and then I cut it in the middle by discarding the things that I can't control. Oh, I know I can immediately discount as being not the cause of this problem. And then I have half left now. So immediately I'm looking at 50% less. And my goal is to keep cutting it in half in my mind to eliminate things. And what I end up with is a very small subset of likely causes. And I've noticed that within two or three steps, I can get down to the likely two or three causes. And I'm often surprised when people are going like, there's so many possibilities. Let me start off at one. And of course, there's 100 possibilities. So they are going through the list one by one and they never keep up. So that was my trick to get to the cause. How about you? How do you work through this D365 problem solving arena?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky one because again, it depends on the nature of problem, but I think the approach still remains same. So I like your idea of cutting it into half and taking away the things which are out of our control or which are not important in solving that. How I deal with this, because being a technical, the type of problems I face, like I get involved is more about either, let's say, okay, everything about platforming, integrations, reporting, that's all technical. But then when it comes to solving business problem, that's where our consultants and SMEs found they have found a gap. They want to fill that gap with a possible design, or they want to automate something, or we want to speed up some process. So the way I look at is I first always start with the process and the user to which it is impacting. Who is going to be impacted with it? What is the business value we are trying to solve? So first is understanding the problem. What are we trying to solve? Because that if that goal is not clear, we can keep moving right and left without reaching to a solution. Then second part is, once I understand the problem, once I understand what we are trying to solve for, is as and I like your approach as well, and that's what I do is like I break things into small pieces instead of
Mhm.
looking at the end result. What is my first step in the journey, and is there a way to automate it, or is there a way to how what is the best way for a user to do it? So step by step process, break your big problem into small solvable components, just like we do a sprint planning, just like we do a backlog grooming. Similarly, we also cut the problem into, from a technology perspective, finalize the data model, finalize the which type of patterns you are going to use. If it's a batch process, for example, or if it is an integration, what type of framework will you use? What I feel is, a lot of time where I find it more challenging is that people come with a predefined solution in their mind when they come with a problem. So I
Yes.
I I get into a lot of conversations with my client because they say, "Hey, I want to use dual right to solve this problem. How can I use it?" And then I say, why do you think dual right is the way to solve this problem? Let's first understand the problem, because there are other tools and frameworks are available for integration between FNO and Power Platform. So, and then I try to explain them that if this is a problem, maybe use business events, or maybe use a custom logic app, because dual write is not a good fit for this purpose. It has this limitation, or it has this type of um, framework which will not be a good user experience, or it may have a performance impact. So
Yeah.
um, the tricky ones are always where the people have a solution in their mind, and they still want you to authorize that solution. Sometimes they may be right, which is valid, but I think a healthy conversation about how you are solving the problem and why you are using a particular toolkit, uh, helps build confidence before the solution goes too far. Because if you start configuring it without even realizing what is the best tool to use it, then you end up in a situation where the solution is not really working well. So I think I use a lot of my own reference. So what I do is, being in the vendor side, working in multiple industries, working on different type of problems, you might not work on same thing every day, and over a period of time you tend to forget those small little tricky things which helped you to solve a problem. So I try to document them in my blog post. I have my own reference of library, like, okay, my code snippets, my design patterns, my database modeling, or some nice standard APIs which we can do to do things in a particular way. So that library actually helps a lot of time to drive those conversations, and we can bring out those limitations with a particular framework. So because this is generic, it stays there, and it also has to be like updated. But I think understanding the problem, what you want to solve, and then if you have, see, I mean, it all is related. Like if you have that skill, okay, I have done it for different clients, I know this is not the right tool. But if it is
True.
a new problem, then you might have to do some research, and you have to reach out to other experts, try to come up with a solution. So be honest in such type of conversations, right? If there is something you are not aware of, something related to, let's say, cybersecurity, you're not really sure how to do it, then don't try to take it longer, and you can take a pause and say, okay, let's either bring in the expert, or let me go and talk to that expert and come back to you, because that will help you to make the right decision. I think the tricky part is the initial solution designing and creation of that framework. Then, because once it moves to development and testing phase, it's very hard to change the fundamentals of your
Yeah.
design. You can't change your data model once your product is in UAT phase. I mean, you can improve on UI UX, but you can't change the core framework of how you develop the batch process, what type of pattern you use there. So I think that's how I manage. It's a mix of a lot of things. Yeah. Yeah.
True. I've noticed that I've been getting a lot of messages from people saying they're looking for work. They're not obviously coming just to me, they're going to many other people. But when I give them advice, it seems too difficult for them. You're in the consulting space. Um, what do you look for in someone to bring them onto the team? Here's some advice I give them. I look at their LinkedIn profile, and the first thing I notice, it's very dry and summarized. It's almost like they didn't put an effort in. So I say they have to get in real deep into the, the features that they know and the benefits they brought to the company. Often they just list all of the technologies they've touched, but they don't tell us how they've done it. So maybe they were in the team and they're claiming credit for things that they didn't actually do. Um, and Elon Musk has a good example where he says, I'll ask them about the detail and then the detail of the detail, and I'll keep drilling down. And you'll see the people who were generally in the team, they stop at the first line, which is, we used your right. But then if you ask them detail, they talk about a performance issue. Then if they go into the detail, they say, well, when it replicates the contacts between the CE and FNO, it only replicates the primary contact. And you go, I think you were actually involved in this. So I tell them about the LinkedIn, and then I ask them to raise their profile by maybe constructing some posts, some articles, trying to get their mastery of the topic into writing. Those are the two broad approaches I take. Tell me what you would be looking for from a consulting side to get people a job in that industry.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Chris. And it again depends a lot on every individual. What is their area of interest? What keeps them curious about the product? What drives their passion? Because there are, let's categorize in two stream. One is an experienced person. So let's say if I'm
Yeah.
interviewing a developer who has 10, 12 years of experience, the way I interact with him will be different to someone who is starting new in this space, or who is trying to cross skill, right? So if we talk about experienced people, as you said, going into the details, devil is always in the details, right? So I always, and Mike, like I have seen, again, it's a more about technical interviews, but I don't like asking question, tell me the name of the class which does sales order posting. So that's not my style. My style is more about, tell me
Sales order post? I don't know. I'd
I think
guess.
that was a trend like maybe 15 years back where I like when I was switching careers, people used to ask me name of the tables and classes, and I was like, why is this even a question, right?
Those
There are
people didn't
thousand.
let you use calculators in their class, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Hmm.
I ask people, tell me about an extension you developed recently, right? And then I try to drive conversation in a way like what was the business process, what was the gap. So I, because if you are into a consulting firm, even if you are technical, you need to have a sense of business, right? So you need to understand what was the gap, who was that functionality targeted for. Now tell me what was the gap, what were the technical challenges you faced. Did you use a event handler or a chain of command, or you use an attribute?
Mm,
Then I
mm,
go detail, like how did you do error handling, how did you perform your transaction integrity, and then if it's a batch, what type of threading pattern you used. So I go in details once I see that yes, person is able to explain me from a consulting mindset perspective, that if you are talking to a client, you understand how what you are solving, how you are solving, what have you learned out of it. It doesn't really need to be the complex of the complex things you talk in interview, right? You can talk about simple things. Tell me about some automation you have done, or tell me something about how you managed your service updates, because this is another area where I see different people doing it in a different way. So I try to have a conversation and see if people are able to explain their thought process, because if you are able to explain something you have done in a nice
mm,
and
mm.
simple way, it automatically reflects that you have a mastery of that skill. And a lot of time it comes by if I talk to a developer in an interview, I think in 15 minutes I get a feeling if he's genuine or not. Sometimes you realize the skill of that person, because if you are in the same field, you can make out what that person is speaking, and if he's fluffing it up too much. Um, in terms of advice, I ask people to, as you said, uh, LinkedIn is a really professional network where everyone searches the moment you get a resume. So, and that's basically a first reflection of you to any prospective employer or the person who is taking an interview. So try to keep it updated with your skill set, try to keep it updated with what you have achieved. If you are writing a blog post or if you're doing technical community contributions, highlight it on that profile so that uh, a person knows what you are doing outside of your space, outside your office work. Now, when I talk to people who are new to this space, I talk about what type of domain experience they carry, what type of why they want to use or why they want to get into the field of dynamics, what type of value you can add to the
Mm.
team. There are people who someone may be a procurement specialist, or someone has a very good domain knowledge of finance processes in Australia, and they can learn the product. Like say, okay, it may take you, I mean, it's a never ending process, but if you have an interest, you can start your journey. There are so many um, things available nowadays, especially on Microsoft Learn. There are so many user groups, community channels to upskill. What I also personally do is I invest in my learning. So a lot of time I find conversations, how can I get it for free? How can I get a trial? How can I get a dev box for free? My personal view is, Chris, here is like invest some money in your learning. I personally
Mm.
have my own tenant, my own LCS project, my own dev box, my own dual written CE connected environment. I know this is my playground. I can break it. No one is going to, say anything to me, even if I break it. And that gives me a, a a toolkit which is my own, and I can, I turn it off if I feel okay the amount has reached to a certain limit. I have set my own budgets, like I would spend thousands of dollars in it, but few hundreds is my like budget of which I try to spend and try to play with it, because it's like you can't learn swimming just by watching a video, right? You have to be in the water, you have to practice it, and that's how the technology is evolving. There are so many new things. It's not that you have learned what you have learned in last 15 years will keep you going for next 15 years. You have to continuously learn and upskill. So I talk to
True.
people, what are you doing to keep yourself up to date? How are you investing in your upskilling? What type of I think community contributions is a great way to reflect how you are keeping yourself up to date, because it's not only giving back, it's also receiving in return, right? When you participate in a forum, you just don't know that which question you have to answer, right? You might be reading 10 questions before you answer one question. When you read those 10 questions, you see what type of problem people are facing, and what is the correct answer for that. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. What are you doing to keep yourself up to date? How have you solved a problem? What is your interest? Why do you want to be dynamic? So these are like 6 7 points where which I give advice to people
Tell
who are
me what you
getting into
do
this
in.
phase.
Gotcha, thank you. Tell me what you would do in this scenario. So, for example, I often find that brilliantly technical people, I love them because they are quirky in their own way, but they solve problems to kingdom come. But I always have to wrap them with another person who has the soft skills and can interpret what the client's asking for and create the documentation, do the meetings, etc. And whenever I find the rare unicorn of a technical person with soft skills, they go to the top of my list. And so I would love to give the advice to a technical person: develop your soft skills, because the one thing holding you back from that next position is that I'm looking at you and I have to spend another hundred and something $1,000 to wrap that person in another layer because I can't rely on them to be in a meeting and get that approval, that agreement, that sign off. Thoughts?
Yeah, 100% agree, Chris. Like soft skills are key for any type of profession you do. And I also find, just like you, that there are many smart technical people, very sharp developers who, if given a task, they'll do it brilliantly. But if you put them in front of a client or a stakeholder, either their communication is too technical and too difficult for people to understand, or they're not able to express themselves. Uh, I also was in this situation, I would say, when I started my journey, because I was always talking technical X++ coding, talking to developers, and that was my space of people whom I was hanging out with. I was only hanging out with developers. We were only talking about
I
technical
think I
things.
was not just talking about you then before your early
That was
years.
me long time back. But then
Okay,
I
okay.
actually got this, as you mentioned, this realization that if you have to be competitive in the industry, you have to have these professional attributes, and soft skill is a part of that. And how you develop soft skill, I think it's very easy for technical people to develop that. It's more about finding platforms to develop those type of skills. Because if you are an expert in so if you are an expert in something but you can't express it, that means that's the area you have to improve on. So you have to first understand what is the objective you are trying to achieve. So how I tell people is, first understand the profile of the person you are talking to, right? If you are talking to a CFO, he is not at all interested in your query plans execution, right? If you are talking to a project manager, he is not at all interested in your database model design. He is interested more in when you can deliver, how much effort you need, right? If you're talking to an enterprise architect, he is really interested in your database design, and he is really interested in your frameworks. He is not interested in how much money you will charge my company. So
Mm,
understand the profile of the person whom you are talking to first. That's the very first thing. If you don't understand whom you are talking to, you won't be able to talk about the relevant things which are
very
important to
true.
them. Why are you in a conversation? That is very important to understand, right? If you are in a design workshop, you are here to solve a problem. You're not here to tell them how good FNO is. No one is going to clap you for that. If
Your
you can
mum might. Other than that,
right? So understand the situation where you are. Who are you talking to? What is the problem you're trying to solve? These are the first few things. You need to really go in with that understanding. Now once you are in the conversation and you understand the profile of the person whom you're talking to, then simplifying your complexity is the art, right? So how can you explain a complex thing in a simple way, is something which develops over time. And that is where you either need to self learn these things, you identify platforms where you can go and improve on your communication skills. And this is where user groups will help you. You go and sign up for a tech talk on a user group. Easy. You are not being judged there. It's not going against your KPI if you don't perform well. And that's what I promote. Like I tell people, hey, if you want to improve what your communication skills or presentation skills, come and give a session on any topic which is which you feel is of your area of expertise. Because if you're talking about something at which you are expert, you don't feel nervous about it, you feel confident about it, that yes, I know this is my forte, I can talk about it, but I just need to help with my rate of speech, avoid using fillers, understanding the audience, conveying the message. You don't have to elaborate everything. Another thing which I feel a lot of technicals do it, they just elaborate or stretch one particular point to a limit where it just makes no sense of what they're talking about. So be clear in your message, say it once, let other person, respond to it, consume your message. It's a two-way conversation, it's never a one-way conversation. So I think you touched on a very good point, Chris. Soft skills, especially for technical people, are really important if they want to stay competitive in the industry and grow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing that the competition is increasing in the world. We now have remote work. You can get a job for D365 from many places. So you're no longer competing with the person who lives nearby and going to that job interview and saying, well, there's 10 of us going. I'm seeing 100 or more people apply for a specific role. And the first thing I do to cut out my load is to take people who are certified, not certified out, and to actually then do other forms of filters, the ones that you and I are talking about, to get down to three. So what many people don't realize is that I have to go from 100 down to three and think of all the things that you can be tripped on, but most likely those people aren't in the top three, right? And that's for the interview, not for the actual job.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because when I was in India, I was sitting in a development center and I had like 500 X plus developers in the same building. How do you get a competitive edge, right? Everyone is expert in writing X plus plus. Everyone is learning the platform. Everyone is solving a problem for their client. So how do you stay competitive in the market? What is your niche? What is your brand? Why should someone pick you over other? Understanding your competition, especially in interviews, is very important. Do the research, read about the company, read about the job role. Like nowadays, there is a lot of transparency. Like you go to LinkedIn, you can see, oh, already 70 people have applied for this job, which I'm going to go and give interview. So you need to really prepare to that level where you become that 1 out of 70, so that the person selects you. And how you can do it is by talking more about your niche skills, the value you can add to the organization, your understanding of the organization. So if someone goes in interview with a mindset that I am a great technical person, I can nail it, only technical skills are not the area of criteria of evaluation. Understand the company, understand the role, and be curious. Ask questions in interview. I sometimes take interviews where very sharp people, I give them opportunity. Do you have any questions for me? They say, no, I don't have any questions. All good. I'm like, oh, I mean, I expect people to ask about the role, what the role is, what will be their first 30 days look like, what are the growth opportunities, what is the vision of the company. Like there is so much to talk about. So yeah, if you have to be bit more curious in interviews to know about the company as well. Yeah.
Well, I'll remember that in case I'm ever being interviewed by you, Rachit. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
No problem, Chris. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was lovely talking to you. A lot of nice talking points, and I think these are really important for any professional, not just FNO. But if you are into industry with any type of skill set, stay competitive. One thing I also say is like try to be Sachin Tendulkar of your game, right?
Mhm.
Think of yourself as someone who people should know by name in your field, right? So
That's true.
set that bar high, work towards it, and there is no substitute for learning and going through that drilling process of pushing yourself beyond limits, then only you will be able to achieve success. I mean, there
As
are a lot of
Yoda,
smart ways to do, but there are no shortcuts. Yeah.
makes sense. As Yoda once said, sense you make. Thank you so much. When is the next user group meeting in Melbourne?
Next user group meeting we are actually planning in Sydney soon.
Okay,
in 2
yeah.
months. So this time we are planning it in Sydney, and we are in talks with some of our organizers, sponsors, and we will be soon announcing it. Yeah.
I can't wait. I look forward. Maybe I'll meet you there.
Awesome. Sure, Chris. Thanks a lot for having me. It was
Thanks,
lovely
Rachit.
talking to you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Mobiz is a community-run organization. We believe in liberating people from the shackles of monotony, inspiring them to dream bigger and reach higher. We empower them to focus on the things that matter, growing their skills, solving new problems, and helping others on a global scale.
We eliminate manual work that stands between people and their future, preventing them from learning new technologies, unleashing their talents, and leaving a legacy that has a lasting impact.
Freedom doesn't wait. Join us at mobiz.com.